In this video, we're going to talk about how to upgrade the cableless battery module's firmware to be compatible with the Red 7.1 and later firmwares. You can see here that we're running 7.1, and our original battery module is showing an upgrade failure warning on the screen. To perform the upgrade process, you'll need a micro SD card that's formatted FAT32 and loaded with the wooden camera cableless firmware upgrade, a standard Phillips screwdriver, and a jeweler-style screwdriver. We'll show you two different versions, one with the standard cableless and one with the D-box. The upgrade process is the same, but the way you disassemble the products is slightly different. To start, we'll use our regular screwdriver and unscrew the 4 Phillips head screws. When using the V-mount version, the process is the same. Now that these 4 screws are removed, we can tilt the plate to the side and then use our jeweler-style screwdriver to remove the 6 screws around the edges. Once those 6 screws are removed, we can take this cover piece and move it towards the battery plate here. Now that exposes our quick back module and the thumb screw assemblies which you have here. We'll want to take the springs out so that they don't get lost. Save those and we'll put them back later. You may also have washers installed here, which is fine, but those will need to be removed too during the upgrade process. The next step is to use the micro SD card. We will align it here with the micro SD card reader and then just gently push it into the reader. It'll snap into place. And from this point, we can install our battery. Now watch, there's an LED light here which will indicate the upgrade process is functioning and then complete. The LED glows and then it blinks. Once the blinking starts, the upgrade has finished. It's very quick. So we will remove the battery. And now we can reinstall the springs and also remove the SD card. You'll just use your fingernail to gently pull it out of its slot, and then you can either tip the plate up to get it out or remove it with your fingers. And we'll set that aside. Now we can reinstall the springs into the center of the thumb screw. Once the springs are installed, we can move the cover plate back into place. You'll want to double check that the springs are all in position. I think I bumped this one over here, so I'll just double check. Everything looks good. So the springs have a recess in the cover plate that they pop into, so you can sort of move the cover plate around in a circular motion until the springs are all aligned. Once they're aligned, you'll see that the cover plate is held into place without screws, so we'll just pinch that down with our fingers and then add the 2mm screws using our jeweler's screwdriver. Once those 6 screws are tight, we're ready to reinstall the battery plate on the back of the metal components, but we want to make sure that we don't pinch any of these wires during that process. So we can do a similar thing to when we installed the cover plate. We can just move this around in a circular fashion to feel that all the wires are in place without being pinched. And you'll see that the plates are flush around the edges. So once that's right, we can add our 3mm screws and use our larger screwdriver to put them in place. Now we're ready to install this on the camera and check the firmware. When performing the upgrade process on the D-box for DSMC2 cameras, the process is slightly different. You'll need a 2.5mm Allen wrench, a jeweler-style screwdriver, and the SD card formatted FAT32 with the wooden camera cableless firmware. The first step is to unscrew the 4 screws on the back of the quick back module here using the 2.5mm Allen wrench. Now that those 4 screws are removed, we're ready to separate the front from the back. And you can see that we have some connected wires here. The next step is to remove the 6 screws just like we did before. We'll use our jeweler style screwdriver. Now that those 6 screws are removed, we're ready to separate the cover plate from the main assembly. And just like before, we'll take out the 4 springs that are up against the thumb screws. Next, we'll install our micro SD card into the slot here. And then we will install our battery. And watch the LED. It'll glow solid first, and then start blinking, meaning that the upgrade process was successful and the battery can now be removed. We will reverse the process and remove the micro SD card, and then reinstall the springs in the center of the thumb screw. And just be careful to keep the springs vertical when you install the cover plate. You'll want to double check that they're in the proper position. You can also move the cover plate around in a circular fashion to make sure that the springs fall into place in the recess on the cover plate. And that feels good, so we will push this down into place and then reinstall the 2mm flathead screws. Now once that's tight, we're ready to align the front and back portions together. You want to make sure that all the wires are tucked into place and that no wire gets pinched during this process. So we can do something similar to what we did with the cover plate. We can move these around in a circular fashion to make sure that the wires are not being pinched by the 2 metal assemblies. Just check that all sides are flush with each other. That looks good. So now we're ready to reinstall the socket cap screws on the back. We'll just drop these into the 4 corresponding holes. And then use our 2.5mm Allen wrench to tighten them down. And you want to apply gentle pressure to this, don't over tighten them. Now that we've completed the upgrade process and powered on our camera, you can see that the percentage display is available in the LCD screen. And if we touch that, we now have voltage information, percentage, and runtime data.